Hello everyone, welcome to the Chase Life podcast. This is episode 3 with Rachel and David Godfrey. So one of the biggest things that we see clients coming to us with is they are overachievers. They're very good at what they do. They are successful, but they're really struggling with a body transformation. And something that we see so commonly as a common trait in almost every single one of these clients is that they have their sense of identity being tied to overachieving and productivity. And doing nothing to them or relaxing feels like they're being lazy, and therefore they feel like they're worthless. Now, I can personally relate to this. This is something that I really struggled with. I think, if I'm honest, all through my teens, my 20s, this is something that I felt like if I was taking time out or if I was relaxing, I was being lazy and therefore not worth anything. My self-worth was entirely based upon the grades that I got at school, which then in turn drove my perfectionism. And then when I started working, how many hours a day that I was working. And the reality is that even though I was pulling, 16-hour days, I wasn't actually very productive in those 16 hours because let's be honest, we're only human. And so no matter how superhuman you can be, you can't really be productive for those 16 hours. And so let's talk about this concept of why being a human doing can inhibit a body transformation.
Yeah, so that's obviously the label we use for it is the human doing. And it's where somebody has learned to tie their self-worth to always being busy, always feeling valuable, always feeling like you're achieving or overachieving. And as a consequence, like you say, then any time that you stop, any time that you do what many people label as doing nothing, feels worthless or like you're wasting time or you're just being a slack shit. Yeah. And so you got to keep going. You got to stay busy. You got to keep going, got to keep pushing, and you can just never stop. You can never slow down the busyness in your mind. And one of the inevitable consequences of that is, I say inevitable, I was going to say binge eating. Now, different people use different mechanisms to escape it, right? But binge eating is a really common one because eating's a doing thing. So I'm not being lazy. I'm not wasting time. I'm busy eating. And so eating food it offers them a moment to be able to stop, to switch off their brain and to just enter this state of just nothingness where I don't have to think, I don't have to feel, and it's almost like a trance-like state for a lot of people.
I was going to say trance. I kind of rewind back to about 10 years ago where I would be kidding myself that I'm sat in front of my laptop, doing some work in inverted commas or writing some emails, but then I'd have a glass of wine there and I'd be mindlessly scrolling through social media because yes, social media was around 10 years ago, but I think it was like the start of Facebook when it was all like very exciting and it was kind of new. And I definitely went into like those trance-like phases where, I was supposed to be there working, kidding myself that at 10 o'clock at night that I was working, but actually not.
Yeah. So it's one of the biggest things that contributes to a huge amount of stress and overwhelm for a lot of our clients. And fundamentally, like we say, it's because their sense of self-worth or whether they feel like they're enough is tied to always being an achiever or an overachiever. And instead of being a human being. So obviously a human being whereby you just recognize that your worth and whether you're enough is inherent. And so one of the biggest things that we help people to, one of the most important places we help people to get to is whereby, have goals, have exciting goals, whatever that is, like business, career, money, relationships, body transformation, have great exciting goals, but you're going to be chasing those things because you want those things and because that's fun for you, because that's exciting for you, not because you need to either achieve those things as a destination or just be constantly being busy in order to finally feel like you're enough, in order to finally feel worthy.
Because something that I found is that even though I had set, for example, big business goals or let's use business as an example. I'd set a big business goal. I'd work a squirrel away, working 16 hours a day for months and months and months on end, I would finally get there and hope for this feeling at that destination. And it would be so temporary that the next day I'd wake up and I'd be like, oh my God, is this it? And so literally with that disheartening, oh my God, like, is this it? I've got to do it all again.
Yeah.
Just for that temporary, like short-term little hit, if you even get that hit at all.
Yeah.
Right. And so this is something that like we've got to talk about, because so many people do it, especially if you like going out and chasing life and you want to hit your big goals, but you've got to do it in a different way.
Yeah, it's so interesting you use that language, like it, that temporary little hit, and it's like getting a hit, as in an addiction. And one of the things that they say about addiction is that you can never get enough of something that almost works. It almost makes you feel like you're enough.
Yeah.
But really, it's just like surrogate self-worth. It's just kind of putting a patch or a Band-Aid over it, and you get a temporary hit, but it never really kind of hits the spot, and it never lasts. And
you're still always searching, you're still always looking for that next thing. And so you think that it's going to be in harder work.
Yeah.
In more like, I guess, self-deprecating activities, and, that being work.
Yeah. And that often will massively translate into the strategy with which people go through life for feeling like they can stop and smell the roses, or for feeling like things are as they should be, feeling like they have a sense of control. Very often that mindset leads to, I'm reluctant to use the term control freak, but that's just the first term that jumps into my head. But it's a behavior that somebody's learned. It's not an identity. It's not who they are, but it's a behavior that they've learned to develop, whereby they have a huge fear of losing control and can only really feel settled if everything is perfectly within its place and perfectly controlled. And what that ends up leading to is, I'm sure many people will understand the whole waiting for happiness to show up someday in the future obviously doesn't work, right? A lot of people understand that intellectually, waiting for someday, when I make the $1 million, when I've got the 2.4 children, dog and the white picket fence, when, then finally I'll have arrived. But what a lot of people don't realize is that in addition to doing it on the macro scale like that, they're also doing it on the micro scale. So they will wait for this next task to be over. It's basically, when I get this shit done, then I can insert good feeling. Then I can...
Or insert good habit. When I've got this task done, and this is something that's really common with our clients is, once I've got this meeting out the way, once I've done this project, then I can focus on my food and my training.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's how a lot of things get just constantly pushed back. And so, but yeah, when I get this shit done, then I can enjoy myself. Then I can, get back on track with my diet. Then I can enjoy my life, feel something good, or do something else. And so it seems small because it's only a half an hour task. So you wait for this moment to be over. And then you wait for the next moment to be over. And then you wait for the next moment to be over. And then you wait for the next moment to be over. And then before you know it, you're wishing away 99% of your life. And then what happens, on the very, very rare occasions when you do have a perfect day where the to-do list gets done in its entirety, there's no unfinished business, there's no unanswered questions, there's no unsolved problems, then you might have this brief moment of, it's not even true sense of inner peace, it's just a sense of relief. There's a brief moment of that, and then what are you doing? You're kind of overanalyzing the next day to come. What else have I got to do? Am I doing enough? Am I doing enough in order to be enough? That might not be consciously where somebody realizes that they're at. Some people might upon hearing that. But honestly, that's where fundamentally, right at its deepest, most unconscious level, that's where it's being driven. For some people, it will just, the only piece they will be conscious of is, I've still got so much to do. There's still so much more to do. There's more to do tomorrow, etc., etc., etc. So a lot of people don't feel like they can feel the need for certainty, which is something that all of us need, but they can't feel certain. They can't feel like they have any sense of safety or security or stability until all to-do lists are complete, all tasks are done. There's no unsolved problems or unfinished business.
Shall I tell you when that happens? When you're dead.
Exactly, right?
Right? And this is one thing that I had to learn, is that the to-do list is never going to be done. There is always going to be something else on the plate. You throw kids in the mix, let me tell you, your to-do list will never get done. It will probably be put off by a couple of days or weeks. Or in some cases, months. Like, I have projects that I wanted to launch before Christmas, and I've since had a baby, and they're still not done. But it doesn't matter. Now, this is not an excuse. Okay, so caveat here. This is not an excuse to be lazy, because there is also a point of productivity here in organization. Now, something that we do is annual planning, and it's something that we teach our clients as well, where we basically, let's take it from a business perspective. We look at the annual, the big things that we want to achieve over the year. We then break those down into quarters. So what needs to be done each quarter, and then each quarter we write out, okay, what needs to be done each month and each week, etc., etc. And then things do get ticked off. And the to-do list is actually somewhat fluid. And also the annual plan is actually somewhat fluid because, of course, major life-changing event, you have a child, sometimes things do get pushed back a little bit. So that's not to say that organization and productivity doesn't happen. It absolutely does happen, and it must happen. And in fact, the days that I'm in the office, I have what we call jam sessions. So basically, I block out periods of time for certain activities. So you'll notice that I'm only on social media at certain points during the day. I will only answer messages at certain points in the day. I check my emails once in the morning and once in the evening. If I don't get through what I need to in those 20-minute blocks of time that I have, I'm sorry, things have to wait until the next day. And so that's now how I operate. If I think about 10 years ago, the idea of doing things this way would have really stressed me out, because I would have thought, okay, I'm letting somebody else down and I'm letting myself down, that I can't cope with all of this stuff and I can't achieve all of this stuff. But the reality is that says everything about me and nothing about anybody else. Since then, I have put a lot of personal boundaries in place. I have a different identity for myself. And again, this is all stuff that we teach our clients how to do. This is not something that I've just... I learned this through experience, and I've actually learned it through working with coaches as well. But, happiness, I guess, looking back, I was chasing happiness and fulfillment through work, and it never arrived. And so I figured, something's got to change. I've got to do something differently. Like, I was so stressed and overwhelmed. And, I've mentioned this before, that I went to see, a Buddhist monk to teach me how to meditate. Well, he was fabulous, but I was still stressed. I went to see a shaman, banging a drum around my head, talking about my spirit animal guide. I still don't know what that is. He was great. I learned some interesting things, but I was still stressed. What I really had to learn was actually true self-worth, confidence, true core confidence, and being able to manage my emotions throughout the day.
Yeah.
And so therefore then, and we see this a lot with clients as well, they then don't need to fall back on food or alcohol, or things like that.
And I think that's key is building that foundation of, number one is that sense of self-worth, and number two, learning to manage and regulate your state yourself from the inside, so that your emotions are no longer being pushed and pulled around by life and circumstance and other people. And once you've got that emotional foundation, then you can build your motivation for why you do what you do in a way that's going to work and create a sense of purpose and passion. So one of the biggest things that causes stress and overwhelm in people is when their motivation comes from stress instead of excitement and purpose and passion. They have lots of things that they want to get done, and they raise their energy through stress energy, instead of raising their energy through a sustainable form of energy, which comes from purpose and passion and excitement. So what's the difference? Well, the difference being is that stress energy or stress motivation comes from fear of what you don't want and what you don't like. So if I need to be a certain way in order to be enough, I always need to be the overachiever, or I need to achieve this body transformation, I need to build this business in order to finally get the recognition that I crave, in order to feel like I'm enough. Well, now your motivation is going to be primarily driven by fear. And it's also the same as hopefully people can see the connection with that, and also the fear of losing control. When people have this desperate need to control everything, it's fundamentally at its deepest level driven by the same kind of thing, but it's wanting to know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen before it happens, and knowing how it's going to feel when it happens, which obviously is totally impossible. Why? Because the future is 100% uncertain. So as a result, people are unable to move through life with a sense of faith and trust in the process, because they want to control everything, even things that are fundamentally uncontrollable. And they agonize over trying to control things that are fundamentally uncontrollable instead of waiting to see what happens. Because as you kind of touched on or alluded to, even the best laid plans fall apart at the start of battle.
Of course.
Right? And so we've been planning this podcast. Like we said we were going to launch this podcast
a year ago. No, it would have been almost a year ago.
Yeah, right. And so, great case in point. So in order to get away from stress and overwhelm, then one of the pieces of the puzzle is making sure that your motivation, the core primary reason why you do what you do, is what you're moving towards. Because sure, there will be people who will be listening to this thinking, no, I do have goals that I want to move towards. I want to get a body transformation, or I want to get a promotion, I want to get a pay rise, whatever. But when you sit down and you put in those extra hours, when you can't stop to eat your lunch because there's yet another task to be done, when you do that, what is the number one emotional driving force behind that? And if it's things along the lines of, I don't want people to think I'm doing a bad job, I don't want to lose business, I don't want my boss to come down on me, it's all fear-based. If that's the number one driving force, and yeah, sure, you might have things that you do want to move towards as well, but if that's the number one driving force, you're living day after day after day in fear, which of course is going to create so much stress and overwhelm, and that's what leads to burnout. When people work 12-hour days, living in states of anxiety because they're doing so much perfectionism, over-analyzing and so forth.
People pleasing.
Then as a result, of course, it's unsustainable. But you can work 12 hours a day if the entire thing is being driven by what you're really excited about creating for the world, this new idea that you've got, this sense of purpose, this sense of passion that you have in this area, and every day is filled with excitement. And sure, there's always going to be things that you might prefer not to do as part of that package, but overall that you have a real clarity on what you're moving towards, where you're going in life, and it's really exciting for you. You can work 12 hours a day, day after day after day, and you're never going to burn out.
And so let me summarize. One feels really good and one feels really shit. and I've been on both sides of the coin. And let me tell you, the side that feels really good, you get so much more done in such a little place in time. And I think about back to last year, I was launching a project. Xavier, our son, he wasn't one, he was probably 8-9 months old, and I really wanted to get this project out. And I was getting up at 4:30 in the morning to get the content out for this project, and I was loving it. Like, I was up, sure, I'd need an alarm to get up at 4:30 in the morning. Like, I would be leaping out of bed, I'd be like down on my laptop, like, getting on with it till 6:30. Then he'd wake up, and I actually couldn't wait for him to go down to his nap so I could go back to work. Like, that's how excited I was about getting this project out. And it's such an amazing feeling. Like, when you turn things around and you work from that place of like excitement and passion, and not only that, it from a business perspective, you attract the right clients. Like, people feed off that energy. Like, that you can feel when somebody is coming from a place of fear and desperation, and then you can feel when somebody's coming from that place of passion and excitement. It comes through in the messaging, it comes through in everything that they do. So yeah, one feels really good and one feels pretty terrible, actually.
Yeah. So yeah, that whole concept about the human doing and having your self-worth tied up in always being busy and just never being able to stop and do quote unquote nothing. Then inevitably it's going to lead to burnout. It's going to lead to all manner of inconsistencies. It's that's why many people have this belief that whenever work gets too busy beyond a certain point, I can't do more than one thing at a time.
Which is why then training and nutrition is often the first thing that drops off, because even though it's important in inverted commas to somebody, it's not part of somebody's identity. Now, we'll come on to identity in another episode because it's a massive topic and it's a really important one. But that's definitely a shift that somebody needs to make, when coming through and stepping away from being a human doing is implementing personal boundaries and a new identity, because otherwise this is never going to change.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, of course, if somebody has this belief that, well, if I don't burn the candle at both ends with work in order to get through this next period or whatever, then I won't be enough. Again, their self-worth is tied into that. Then of course other things are going to fall by the wayside. So I think something for people to understand is that there will always be outstanding tasks, things that have to get bumped over to tomorrow or next week or next month. Because how do most people typically plan, right? They typically plan every single day based on the perfect ideal scenario. These are all the tasks that I want to get done. This is how much each of those tasks, quote unquote, should take. And we never factor in unforeseen interruptions or things taking longer than we anticipate them to, and so on and so forth. And so the only times when we ever feel accomplished or good enough is when we've had the perfect day. So every day's stressful.
Yeah. And so to summarize this, I think one of my really good friends used to say to me, Rachel, there's always tomorrow. And I think that's a really good point to wrap up with, is if this has resonated with you and you're struggling with overwhelm and constantly on that treadmill of wanting to do more and more and more and more and more, just tell yourself, you know what, there's always tomorrow. And that's, again, caveat, that's not an excuse to be lazy. This is I'm talking, you guys know who I'm talking to here. If you're there listening to this and you're nodding your head going, yeah, that's me. It's time to take an honest moment here and go, okay, let's take a step back. There is always tomorrow.
Learn to do nothing and enjoy it.
Exactly. Actually, you know what? That's one thing that I've learned from David, actually, is David, you're really good at
doing nothing.
Doing nothing, actually. Yeah, David is like Mr. Balance at many things, one of which is work hard, play hard, and work hard, rest hard. When David's resting, you're resting. And that's definitely something that I've learned from you.
Yeah, one of the things that when I'm working with a client who struggles with this kind of stuff, I emphasize to them that doing quote unquote nothing, and the reason I use that language is it's what they used to label as doing nothing. It's actually rest and recovery. But doing that is a high performance activity. Why? Because, well, what's the alternative? You do what we just described, which is busy being busy, can't ever stop, can't ever switch your brain off.
Which is a low level behavior activity.
What's that going to lead to? It's going to lead to decision fatigue. It's going to lead to stress and overwhelm. It's going to lead to never being recovered. The human nervous system has to, if you're familiar with sympathetic, parasympathetic, you'll understand those terms, but it has to go from busy to recovery, to busy to recovery throughout the day, not just busy during the day and then recovery, sleeping at night. Throughout the day, we have to have these periods of recovery. And if you don't, performance is going to drop and drop and drop. Now you get brain fog. Now you can't concentrate on things as effectively. You can't make decisions as effectively. Your resilience and tenacity fall through the floor. Things get to you so much more easily. You're quick to anger. And so these things accumulate day after day after day. You're not going to be productive. You're not going to be a high performer if you do it that way. So doing what you used to label as quote unquote nothing is actually a high performance activity.
So work hard, play hard, and there is always tomorrow. So look, if you're looking to take action on these kind of things, so to permanently overcome binge and emotional eating, low self-worth, low confidence, to manage your stress and overwhelm, then you can book into our diary and chat to us at chaselifeintensive.com/call. And as always, if you have a question for the podcast, you can contact us on email, podcast@chaselifeconsulting.com. So that is a wrap for today. Please rate and review and subscribe. And remember, tell only your best friends. So chase life and always play beyond the rules.